welcome back. You're watching Investors Guide, and this week, in addition to answering your questions on mutual funds and your investments, we're also answering your questions on your credit reports. As we all know, your loans and your credit card payments are an integral part of your personal finance, and it's important to have a healthy credit report. Mr. Arun Tukral, the Managing Director of the Credit Information Bureau of India, joins us now to answer your questions. Arun, thank you so much for coming back into the studio for Investors Guide. We know you've answered these questions for us in the past, but the questions haven't stopped, and we have a bunch of questions that have come in. I want to get straight into it so we don't waste any more time. Vikas has written in with a very basic question. He wants to know how the CIBIL score functions and how you arrive at that score and how banks use the score to make up their minds.
Basically, a score is a numerical number which is a snapshot of your credit history, and which is in 3 digits number, which is from 300 to 900. It ranges from 300. Obviously, if your score is nearer to 900, it's a good score. And, if it's nearer to the bottom at 300, it's a thing to be concerned about, because then your application may not be entertained because of it. But obviously, you should be able to look after your credit history and be financially disciplined. And that's the key. There is nothing, no rocket science involved in that.
Okay, so what you're saying basically is that a credit report is a report that CIBIL has on each and every one of us, on every loan that we've ever taken and every repayment we've ever made. And given our punctuality of payment and given how many defaults or how good you were on those payments that you've made on your loans, then they arrive at a 3-digit score, which is your credit score, which banks then use to decide whether or not they want to give you a loan. Now, here's one more question. He wants to know, if there's a settlement that's been made between a lender and a borrower after a default, and both of those parties have reached an amicable settlement, will that be then recorded as a default, or will that be recorded as a settlement? How will that pop up on his credit report?
There are, if he has looked at his own credit report, and if he hasn't, he should get one. There are 2 windows which say, one says written off and one says settled. So let's say somebody owed a bank 100 rupees, and finally, because there was a problem and he couldn't pay, and finally, and there was a long delay in that. And anyway, any bank, if any payment is not received in 180 days, have to flag it as a written off. So that's what they do. But if he's settled, let's say if it's 100 rupees and he's settled 80, but he's not paid 20. So that's the way that those 2 columns in the windows which are there in the report will show partly settled, whatever the amount is, and partly written off. So that will stay in his report. It cannot be raised there. So therefore, that would be considered differently than, if you were proper in paying and there was no settlement and you paid all your dues on time. There is no reason that there should be an issue there.
So these are 2 important things that we just learned. One, any payment that's delayed over 180 days then gets into the column of being a write-off. And CIBIL doesn't pass judgment. It just puts down those details, and then the bank looks at how much you've paid, how much you've settled, how much has been written off, and decides whether or not it wants to give you a loan. Another question is coming from Naveen Kumar. He wants to know how he can access his record at CIBIL and what he should do, because he tells us he's defaulted on a couple of credit card payments some time ago, and he wants to take a look at his report and find out if it's part of his report right now.
It's a very easy thing. You can go on the CIBIL site, on the website, and there's a format which gives him the details, and that's basically the website is www.cibil.com. So it's very easy. And once he goes there, when he reads that, he will have a page where he can go on and ask and request for his report, and he would have to provide the details like his name, his address, his date of birth. And once he's given the details, and then he can make a payment, which is along the credit report and the score. The payment is at 450, which includes the service charges and also the postal charges. So all that put together is 450. He can use a debit card, credit card, online transfer, or if he likes, he can also use a draft. And once he's done that, and then he will have to send us the documents like his ID proof, his address proof, and along with that form and the receipt if he's done a net transfer or if he's sent a demand draft with to CIBIL's office, and our consumer relations will send him a report back.
All right, Naveen, so that's the system you have to follow. Remember, the CIBIL website flashing at the bottom of your screen. You need to go onto that website, fill in those forms, then send them details to prove that you are who you say you are, because there is, of course, a privacy issue with accessing somebody else's credit report. Make the payment online and your credit report will reach you via the post.
Absolutely, because that also we have to do. Actually, we are in the process of developing an authentication tool, which hopefully in the next quarter, if the tests go right, we should be able to offer that service, where we could be able to authenticate you online and send you a report online, because that's the biggest challenge. We cannot afford to take that risk, because your report cannot go to somebody else, because on the net we cannot identify that actually you might have details for somebody else and are seeking that report, and we cannot be giving it to the wrong person.
We have a question also that's come in from Pradeep. He's written in saying that he has a disputed amount on his credit card dated 2002. He wants to know, he says it's on his credit report right now. He wants to know how he can resolve it. And for something that was dated so far back, how much of a weightage will it have on his report today?
Well, if his credit history is showing that he has gone delinquent and he's not paying his EMI, obviously it will impact his score. Because the most critical element which is goes into the building of score is definitely his credit history and his the payments, the way he's paid his EMIs for whatever loan he took. So that definitely is a very critical component which will impact his score. But again, the score is a dynamic number. So if he clears his outstanding, whatever he owes to the bank, and starts paying his EMIs and his the credit card or whatever he has on time, and then over a period of time the history shows that he is very, very disciplined about paying his EMIs and all that, then the score will move up. So if it's, let's say, X, it can go to 2X depending on how his history is over a period of time.
You've been putting together this information for over 10 years now, but when you put together a particular credit report, how far back does that information go? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years?
Well, in our report, we actually show 3 years. That's why I was wondering, though he defaulted in 2 years, but the report, that same record which is continuously coming, and because he is not paying his EMIs and there's a history, and which is delinquent. So that's the way when we get a monthly cycle and we get an update. But if that credit guarantor is showing that as his record, that's the way it will come.
Okay, so if Pradeep actually pays off and resolves that disputed amount, and then continues to have good payments right now on the loans that you have running right now, Pradeep, you can actually improve your credit report.
Absolutely.
The CIBIL website flashing at the bottom of your screen, you can use that to get a copy of your report and to resolve any issues you might have on that report. Arun, thank you so much for joining us on Investors Guide and answering our questions. We will, of course, ask you to come back when we get more questions from our viewers. Remember, email ID is at the bottom of your screen. You can write to us if you have questions for Arun or anything else regarding your money. And you can also catch this episode on our Facebook page if there's something you'd like to listen to again. Tune in next week and catch Investors Guide. Thanks for watching.